Now, when one couple was told their granddaughter would be adopted, they wanted to care for her themselves. But what they didn't foresee was a huge legal battle. They even had to fight to be part of the court proceedings. These are grandparents who contacted us after reading about another case involving an Italian mother whose baby was forcibly put up for adoption by the very same local authority, Essex Social Services. But as this programme has been finding out, grandparents have precious few legal rights. Our health and social care correspondent Victoria MacDonald reports.
Gonna be a big jump.
Katrina and Lee Parker, who are from Colchester in Essex, came within 2 days of losing all contact with their granddaughter. She was to be adopted. A family was waiting to take her, and that would have been it.
Can you see them flying?
In the beginning, when we first approached a solicitor to try and have something in writing that we would still be allowed to see our granddaughter, I don't think we looked at the possibility that there weren't grandparents' rights.
Think of fun.
There is a lot of misunderstanding in society that grandparents somehow have rights.
Whoa.
But the Parkers soon discovered that they did not have the automatic right to take over the care of their granddaughter after Essex Social Services removed her from her mother. The Parkers approached Channel 4 News because they believe they have a duty to speak out. Firstly, about the secrecy of the family court system, but also they wanted to highlight how they were treated, they allege, as grandparents by social services. It is rare for people who have been through the family court system to talk. The risks can be enormous if they're believed to have breached the rules. But although it took 18 months, the Parkers did eventually win, and they hope that alone gives them some security, allowing them to discuss what happened.
We've been told that. We've been told by many professional people not to speak to any media. But in saying that, somebody has got to, because this has got to change. It's got to change. They can't continue to be allowed to get away with doing what they're doing.
The Parkers' anger is largely, though, aimed at Essex Social Services. In February last year, India was taken into care after her mother was unable to look after her baby. The couple claimed they were not told Essex Social Services had been granted a care order, nor, they say, were they told how they could fight to look after her. What is disturbing about this case is that the Parkers were initially, and wrongly it turns out, excluded from even applying to take part in the care proceedings. They had no voice to prevent their granddaughter from being adopted. They were in the end saved by a judge who gave them the right to appeal. But what we don't know, what we're not allowed to know, is why the judge even reached that decision. And nor do we know why they were excluded from those proceedings in the first place, nor why social services did not approach them to see if they could care for India. Instead, the Parkers now claim that social workers tried to discredit them at every turn.
They said they'd set up various meetings which we hadn't attended. And when we asked another social worker to look into that, what had actually happened was they'd set up these meetings which we hadn't attended, but the reason we hadn't attended is because they hadn't actually invited us to the meetings.
We were portrayed as people that were very obstructive and very secretive, and we had something to hide, that there was something going on and we weren't letting them in.
And is that true?
No, not at all.
Was that fun? Do you want to do it again?
Yet even after the Parkers had won their appeal to take part in the proceedings, to apply to become India's guardians, it took nearly a year before that was resolved. Indeed, at one point, they were told by their barrister there was no hope they would win.
I was in complete shock. Lee worried because he had to help me out of court. And I sat there and the barrister came out and he said to me, you need to go home and tell your family and tell your children that it's over, you have lost, there's nothing more we can do. And I sat there and I said in a very small voice, this is not over.
It is a fact the Parkers have 7 children, 5 of them still at home, and there is the daughter who could not look after her own baby. So perhaps that was part of the decision made by social services.
But to not move on and ask the question, were we capable? Would she be happy? We knew we were capable. We knew she would be happy. And I don't think they were able to get past what they believed, their own preconceptions.
And it should never have been about social services trying to beat us. It should always have been about getting what is best for the child. It should always be what is getting best result for the child, and it didn't ever feel like that.
In a response, Essex County Council said the case involved very complex and finely balanced decisions, which took account of a range of professional advice. As the case progressed, the council said, it was able to change its position to support these grandparents, but that at all times the final decision was one to be taken by the courts. What the Parkers went through is not actually that uncommon. Although there are recommendations that extended family, including grandparents, are considered and consulted before adoption proceedings begin, that is not always happening. Researchers found that almost half of local authorities don't even have a policy on family and friends care.
Well, it's too common, really. I mean, what we hear through grandparents that contact us is that they sometimes don't find out about proposals to adopt their grandchild until really late in the process. And by that time, sometimes it can be too late for them to be considered because the child may have formed a bond or at least got used to being with the carers who are taking that sort of daily care of them. So it does happen.
In this case, the Parkers did win. They did get to take India home. Yet they also talk about all the other people affected by this process. The adoptive family who had been waiting for a little girl they had been promised was coming to them. The foster parents who cared for her for all those months.
Shall we?
You ready?
Yeah.
And of course they talk about the anger they feel that they so nearly lost her.
Well, Victoria is with me now. It's a very powerful story, but it is just one individual case. Why is this case so important?
It's important, Kathy, because we don't often hear from people who win. So there is a bit of it that we can report, but there is still an awful lot, and this is the frustration of it, that we can't say, that we're not allowed to know. We're not allowed to say anything that went on in the family court. We're not allowed to see any documents. So in many respects, you have to take their word for it. And because they won, you can more believe them than other people who came to you and said, I've lost my children, wrong has been done to me. What this case, what the issue is in this case is not only the secrecy or the privacy, if you want to call it that, of the family court, but also of the rights of the grandparents. Now, another issue has been raised is that very soon the laws on adoption are going to be changed to speed up the adoption process. And that means that people like the Parkers may only have about 12 days in which to apply to be part of that child's life. And that would be tragic if so many grandparents could unfairly not be part of their grandchildren's lives.
Victoria, thank you.